Holy shit. Oh my god. Okay, Penny Dreadful just got 10 times better than it already was. Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is my review for Penny Dreadful, Season 2, Episode 8, Memento Mori, and wow. Okay, this was the best episode of Penny Dreadful of all time. Seriously, this was the best episode of the entire show. This was by far the best episode of the season. So much change in this episode. I don't even give a shit that Vanessa and Ethan weren't in this episode. This episode was so huge and such a game changer that just it's probably one of the best episodes of TV I have seen all year, to be completely honest with you guys. It had constant tension that I loved. It had everything that I love about this show. That is why I watch Penny Dreadful. Seriously, that is why I watch Penny Dreadful, and it was awesome. Really, it was. I loved everything about this episode, and it was such just like a crazy game-changing episode. I mean, just stuff happened, and it was huge. Like, I can't wait for these final two episodes. They're going to be amazing, and let's get into this episode because, wow, that is why I watch Penny Dreadful. And you know my complaint with True Detective, how, like, they couldn't handle split storylines very well? Look at how Penny Dreadful does it. That's how you develop characters. Seriously, Penny Dreadful knows how to do it. Like, that's why, by far, best show on Showtime. Seriously, best show on Showtime. I don't care. So, I love the way this episode starts, because as we know, of course, Lily, we saw last week, she is not the, nice little sweet cousin of Victor that we thought she was. Because she wakes up next to the corpse of the man she killed, and she gives this really good speech all about how she loves how men, don't want to grow up, and that's something she loves about them. And she's saying that he'll never grow up now, kisses his eye, and she dresses and she walks out, and I thought that was a perfect way to start the episode. I mean, Lily in this episode is very different than how we've seen her. And the way they portray in this episode, I absolutely love the way they portrayed Lily in this episode. Seriously. Seriously, they did a fantastic job with portraying her in this episode. She was fucking amazing. Billie Piper needs to get support, best supporting actress in a TV show. Really, she does after this episode. She was amazing. So John goes to Victor's lab. Sorry, I'm getting over how crazy this episode was. Seriously, John goes to Victor's lab, and he is obviously pissed at him, and he finds his creator unconscious on the floor. Wakes Victor up by throwing water at him, and he demands to know where Lily is, and he's, Victor's vomiting, saying that she's not there, and of course, Victor doesn't know where she is. Of course, he sent her out on her own, and John's flying into a rage, and I like the reason that John was upset wasn't just because he wanted to be with Lily, but also because he was concerned about her. I thought that was really well done. Something the show does really well is get us to care about characters that we really shouldn't care about, and, John's really one of those characters. John grabs some live wires, threatens him, and it was insane when he did that. He's saying that she went out with, Dorian, and he says that Victor made Lily for him. That's really, if you remember, that's the whole reason why why Caliban was even introduced. That's why John wants what he wants, because he wants he wanted a bride, and Victor's basically taking advantage of that, and he vows to take Verona and says that once he has taken her somewhere far away, he will return and show him the monster he has made, and Karma's gonna get Victor. Really, the way this episode ends, Karma is definitely gonna come after Victor. Really, it definitely is, and I thought that was a great scene. I mean, we haven't gotten a lot of John and Victor interaction, so to see that the creator, basically his creation go after his creator like this was awesome to see. I absolutely love how he's rebelling against Victor. That was awesome. So at Scotland Yard, Rusk's junior shows him Cosworthy's appointment book, and Rusk's predecessor meets with Malcolm, and the junior inspector has done some digging, and satisfied, Rusk says that he has a call to make. So Lyle meets with Evelyn at her manor. This is probably going to be the last time they ever speak after this episode, definitely. And he speaks with her as her coven witches are massaging her, and he talks about the efforts he makes to appear young in her own magical efforts. And Evelyn dismisses her handmaidens, and she asks if he cares about Malcolm and the others. And Lyle claims that he's given up caring about anyone, and he admits that he's entirely Evelyn's creature. And I can tell exactly what he's doing here. He is just doing this to get more information out of her, and I mean, she can tell that he's lying, and he doesn't know where Ethan or Vanessa went or when they will return, which is true. This is completely true, because, of course, he told Vanessa straight out, don't tell me where you're going, and I like that we actually didn't see him in this episode. They could have shown them, but honestly, because the way this episode was done, we didn't need to see them, and that's something I thought they did a really good job with here. So Evelyn asks if Vanessa loves Ethan, and the escapologist says that Vanessa is opaque. She grabs him by the throat and puts her needle ring to his throat, but then says that she knows he's not lying, and Evelyn decides that she will have to lure Vanessa back and dismisses Lyle, and she insists on him kissing her goodbye. This is probably one of the most just awkward scenes for Lyle. By far, I felt so bad for Lyle in the scene, because as we know, Lyle is a closeted homosexual. He's hiding the fact that he's gay, and her doing that to him is just, like, influencing him further to, it's just, you see the torture he's going through, and I thought that was really sad. It's one of the reasons why Evelyn, I think, is one of the best villains on TV. I mean, she's just so intimidating, and what she did to him, I mean, it doesn't get worse than that. She spits on the floor. I mean, she even tells him that she felt like she was kissing a fat man. Like, it was so rude what she said to him, and that was huge. So Lyle goes, and we get something huge in this episode. Hecate is starting to turn against her mother. This kind of came out of nowhere, but I can see where it's coming from. I think she sees what Evelyn is doing, and she knows that it's wrong, and I kind of like this, because on any other show, you would have Hecate allying with her mother the whole season, but now she's turning against her, and she confronts him and demands to know what her mother said, because she wants to know, what she said to her. And she then changed the subject and wants to know everything that Lyle knows about Ethan. And I don't really know where she's going with that, but that's really interesting that she wants to know what's going on with Ethan, but that was really interesting, I have to say. So, I don't know if she's starting to get, like, an attraction towards him, because that was definitely very interesting, because I don't really know what her angle is there. So, at the townhouse, Malcolm looks at photos of his deceased family, and Sembene comes in. I've been pronouncing his name wrong. It's Sembene. I've been pronouncing his name wrong this whole time. Sembene, by the way, finally, Sembene has tons of shit to do. Seriously. Something I was hoping they'd do this season, and they are doing it, is giving Sembene a lot more to do, and he is a badass in this episode, truly. Sembene is a badass. I did hear people say they feel Sembene is hiding something. I kind of agree. I mean, think of what Sembene said to Ethan last week when he told him that he knew, he's seen wolves and things like that. I definitely feel like Sembene, there's a lot more to him than we know. I honestly would love to see a flashback episode with Sembene. The way they've done with Vanessa, do with Sembene, that'd be awesome. He's really the only character we know nothing about. He's pretty much a blank slate, and I love that. So he tells Malcolm that Rusk is there, and Malcolm meets with him in the study, and Rusk asks why he met with Causeworthy, having already spoke with his predecessor, and knows that Malcolm insisted that they hunt on a beast rather than a man. And Malcolm dismisses this as a caprice, and Rusk points out that he has weapons, and of course, Malcolm is still, in the same place where he's, like, doesn't really have much emotion, and Rusk points out that he has weapons as windows, and the explorer says that he decorates his house as he sees fit, and Rusk asks who lives there, and is seemingly surprised, and Malcolm says that only his ward and Sembene lives there with him. He expected more people to live there, which I can understand why. I mean, think of how many people visit him. He just has a lot of friends. That's really what it is, that they can't really tell him what they're doing, so obviously, to him, he's shocked. So the inspector comments on the steel front door, and Malcolm says that there have been recent robberies in the neighborhood, and he then asks about the missing persons report that Malcolm filed on Mina. And of course, we know why that steel front door is there, because of Ethan, obviously. And of course, they don't know about that, but Sembene does. And he then asks about the missing report that Malcolm filed on Mina, but eventually stopped demanding results. And Malcolm says that Mina died and the circumstances were embarrassing to his family. We really focus a lot more on Mina and Peter and Gladys, which is a very important part of this episode, and one of my favorite parts by far. Basically, he says he used his influence to ensure a private burial, and he wanted to do that because she was his daughter, and Russ then takes out a flyer of Ethan, asks Malcolm if he knows him, and Malcolm, of course, he's trying to cover him up as best he can. He says that he doesn't, and Russ tells them to inform them if anything that could aid in their investigation before departing. So, I like that he tried to cover up things for Ethan. I thought that was really well done, but wow, I mean, that was a really crazy scene. So, you can definitely tell that he's starting to get more suspicious. Rusk is definitely getting more suspicious as to what's going on with Ethan. You can tell that's going on. I thought that was definitely very interesting. So then we see Lilly, and the scene with Lilly was awesome. She returns to the lab and tells Victor that after she and Dorian, she tells him directly what happened, that after she and Dorian went to the waxworks, She went off on her own and sat down in the park and dozed off until morning, and she notices the flowers, and of course that whole story is bullshit. That's not at all what she did, and she definitely is trying to cover up who she really is in front of Victor, and she notices the flowers that Dorian sent, but it says that he's too sophisticated for her. And Victor suggests that they leave London, but Lily points out that she still has much to learn, and London is their home, which that part is true. Definitely, I feel like Lily still wants to learn, what's going on, and she suggests that they have breakfast, and Victor tells her not to bother because he's going out, and again, karma's gonna get him because you can tell that Lily is a lot smarter than she appears. Do I think that she doesn't know a lot about London? Yeah, I think that part's true. But she definitely is a lot smarter than she is acting. Definitely, and I think that really is interesting. So Victor goes to the townhouse and admits to Malcolm that he's addicted to love, and the veins in his arms have almost all collapsed, and he must operate in them but doesn't have the tools. And what Malcolm says about love I thought was really interesting, because Malcolm said that none of them have the tools, and Victor admits that he has never faced a challenge before that he couldn't overcome. And his older friend, basically, Malcolm admits that he's faced with equal problems in love. In many ways, they both are sort of like spellbound by the same ingredient, love. I mean, why is Malcolm the way he is? Because he's in love with Evelyn. Why is Victor having John, turn against him? Because of Lily. And Malcolm admits that his life has been one of hate and dissatisfaction. He was cruel to his wife and children. However, now he's content. And now that he's content, Malcolm can admit that he's not a happy man at heart and has become a stranger to himself. And he points out that he was dancing on a ball on the day of his wife's funeral and wonders what he has become. So you can definitely tell that this spell is starting to wear off. And I thought that was very well done here, because I like that Malcolm sort of being able to do that himself, and, no one really had to do that for him. That was amazingly well done. However, Evelyn, of course, can tell that this is going on because she knows what she's doing. So in a workshop, she's casting a spell on the Malcolm fetish, and as Malcolm meets with Lyle in his study, he clutches momentarily at his chest. I wasn't sure if he was going to have like a heart attack or something, but that was definitely very interesting. Because Lyle's basically talking about how they have completed the narrative and promises Malcolm, Sembene, and Victor to secrecy, and he then explains that Lucifer was vanquished and cast out with his minions, and Lucifer was cleaved apart into two brothers. And this kind of sums up Evelyn. One was cast upon earth to feed upon the living, basically Evelyn, and the other in hell to feed on the souls of the dead, Lucifer. And both were to quest for the mother of evil, who will release one of them from his bondage to reconquer heaven and topple God. So that I thought was definitely very interesting, because of course that's what Evelyn wants to do. She's so devoted to Lucifer and everything. That's all Evelyn. And Evelyn sends down the fetish, and basically Victor then realizes that the brother cast to Earth is the vampire's master that captured Mina and used her to lure Vanessa. That I thought was really interesting. I love that they're connecting season 2 to what happened in season 1. Because honestly, if Mina would have died, none of this would have happened. Really, it wouldn't have. And that I thought was definitely very interesting. So, and a lot of people said, like, when season 1 ended, that Mina's storyline ended too abruptly. No, it's continuing, guys. Like, you do realize everything going on the season is basically because of what happened with Mina at the end of season 1. That's why. So meanwhile, Lucifer has tried to capture Vanessa's soul and failed, so uses the witches to do his bidding, which I thought was really interesting. It's not so much Evelyn that wants Vanessa, it's Lucifer. That's why Evelyn's been after Vanessa, because of course Lucifer is making Evelyn, lure Vanessa to him, and that's, she's so devoted to Lucifer that she's going to do that. And I thought that was definitely very interesting when we saw that. A question I've had all season is, why is she so connected to Vanessa and so insistent on Vanessa, and now we know why. I thought that was definitely very interesting. And again, Vanessa's not even in this episode, and we know so much, and I love that. So Evelyn opens the fetish's cast, and as Malcolm wavers, Lyle says that Vanessa's guardian is the Hound of God. The Hound threatens Lucifer's plans, and Malcolm realizes that the text refers to a wolf, not a dog, Ethan. And that was really interesting. So the table where the relic shakes and then stops, and this scene was so creepy, and I loved it. Malcolm's eyes turn solid black, and basically Lucifer is speaking through him, saying that it's time for them to meet their master, and he throws the table aside, and guys, this is when the episode gets amazing. The episode was great, but this is the point of the episode where I'm like, okay, this is fucking awesome. Because Sembene grabs Malcolm, drags him into an empty room, and he's shouting him to tell him to know who he is, and I think this is the first time that Sembene has solved something, and that I thought was fucking awesome. Like, Sembene is such a badass, I love it. And I thought this was amazing. And Evelyn's pausing. She's very confused because it's not working. She knows that this isn't working. And this scene was just, oh my god, I love this scene. The way they handled this was perfect, especially because, as I said, Penny Dreadful is a very character-driven show, and something that's very great about the show is that every character is fantastic. So if you love the characters, you had to love this scene, because Malcolm's looking around the room, and he, of course, sees Gladys, and he remembers dancing with her, and she tells him to remember, and Mina and Peter are there as well, and it was actually really great that they got everyone back here. They dance together, Malcolm walks around them, watching Gladys come over, kisses him, and then walks away, and Evelyn's trying to regain control over Malcolm, but she knows it's not working, and Malcolm stares at children, fights the spell, and it's broken. So Malcolm's back to his normal self, and that was awesome. I love that Malcolm finally is back to his normal self. I mean, they did a fantastic job with that. So just seeing his children finally brought him back to the man he was, and that was awesome. So the baby's heart within the fetish stops beating, and a nearby mirror cracks, and Evelyn stares at the heart and snarls in frustration. It's probably one of the first times that things have gone wrong for Evelyn, and I love what Hecate says. You know, she is actually happy that it's failed for her, and she tells us that Malcolm released himself from the enchantment, and Hecate suggests that she try, warning that they have to do something, and Evelyn says that they need do nothing because Malcolm is a man of anger and will come there, and Hecate demands to know what will happen again and says that Evelyn's growing old, and Evelyn grabs... And what Hecate is saying, I can understand what she's saying. I mean, she's getting older, she might not be as aware of the spell, maybe Hecate knows what she's doing, and Evelyn just grabs her by the face, tells her never forget who commands, and throws her back, and that's understandable why Hecate wants to rebel against her mother. Like, after that, why wouldn't you? Like, seriously, she wants nothing to do with you. She's telling you to do nothing. She's basically treating you like a baby. She even calls her a baby in the episode. Like, I was just like, fuck you, Evelyn. Like, this is your daughter who's just trying to help you, and you, like, shun her. Like, you don't have to do that. So I thought that was really rude, but I absolutely love that scene. I have to say, I love what Hecate decides to do, and Hecate decides to do with this. So back in his study, Malcolm's contemplating photos of his family and loads his guns, and he knows what he's going to do. He knows what's going to happen, and he knows what he has to do now. He knows who did this to him, and he knows why this has happened, and this was so awesome. So Angelique goes to Dorian's portrait room, and I love what they did with Dorian and Angelique in this episode, seriously. I didn't think they'd do it, but they did it, and Dorian's going out, and Angelique asks if he's having dinner with Lily again, and he admits that he is, and asks if Angelique minds. And she asks if it would matter if she did, and you can see that, Angelique can see that Dorian doesn't really care about her. I think this was the first time that she can tell that Dorian doesn't care about her, and I said that Dorian doesn't care about, he cares about the looks. That's not really that's what he cares about. And Dorian turns and leaves without a word, and we see Lily's applying perfume and then goes out. They're going on a date. Malcolm goes out alone. We know what he's going to do. And John follows Lily and Dorian as they go to a jeweler's, and Dorian buys Lily a necklace. You gotta feel bad for John, seriously, you do. And then Angelique notices this breeze, and she sees this painting, basically. And she sees that there's a door. She goes inside, there's this hidden panel, and that was really interesting. I mean, that was really intriguing. The way they handled that, I was like, okay, what's on the other side of that door? That was definitely very interesting, the way they did that. So Malcolm goes right to Pole Manor and enters, and this scene was so awesome. He has his guns out, and one of the witches are dropping down behind him, then blends in the shadows before he can fire, and, I mean, he's such a badass, really. He's just firing at basically the witches. I mean, it was so awesome, really, especially with what Malcolm's been going through. To finally see this happen, I thought was amazing. So Sembene discovers that Malcolm's gone. He tells Victor and Lyle insists that they need to find Vanessa and Ethan, which, yeah, they do. That's really what they need to do here. So Dorian returns home, finds the open panel, and the witches attack Malcolm on the stairs, disarming him, knocking him out, and that was insane to watch. Really, it was. So I love the way they did this scene, really I do, because Dorian, he sees its open panel, and he descends into passages and finds Angelique staring at his portrait, and he hands her a drink, and he's realizing, oh shit, she's gonna realize who I really am. So he explains that his sins are made manifest only there, and basically Dorian asks if Angelique can accept him as he truly is, and Angelique says that she can, And this scene was actually quite heartbreaking. I felt bad for Angelique. Dorian gives her this glass of champagne, they share a toast, and Angelique dies. He poisoned her. And I didn't think the show was going to do that, but holy shit, honestly, I am so happy that the show killed off Angelique, honestly. Angelique wasn't needed anymore, and I like the show realized that. A lot of shows, they just keep characters on when they're not needed. For example, Finding Carter with Crash, they did that, and, he's not really needed anymore. This show, no, she's not needed. They're going to get rid of her, and I thought that was, really, really fucked up what Dorian did, but I can understand. I like that the show did that. I like the show wasn't afraid to kill off someone like that. And looking down, Dorian whispers that he doesn't think that she can, and he then looks at his portrait. It's aged and hideous and chained in place, and I don't really know what that's trying to show. I think that's showing that that's what Dorian really would look like had he not been able to live forever. Because, of course, Dorian, he doesn't age, he doesn't get old. That's what he would look like right now, which I think is really interesting. I'm pretty sure that's what they were trying to show there. So, the end of this episode, these last 3 scenes were just fucking amazing. I love the way they handled this. Because Lily returns to the lab and undresses, and John's watching from the window. He steps forward and tells her, and of course, she's playing her, innocent self. She's like, oh, don't be here when Victor's here. And he tells her, stop pretending that she's frightened and asks who she really is, because he knows there's more going on with her. And John asks if she enjoyed her evening with Dorian and says that there's only him. And Brona dismisses him as pathetic and says she could never, she could never care for him. And furious, she says, and she has this really good monologue here, I have to say, I think this made me think Billie Piper definitely deserves an Emmy for this performance. She was amazing here. And here's the thing, it's not that Brona wasn't fantastic in Season 1, it's just that we didn't really get a lot of her character, so what we're getting of Lily in Season 2 is fucking awesome. Seriously, it is. And Lily is such a better character than Brona. Like, I could definitely say they're very different characters. Brona was definitely more quiet. She was suffering from tuberculosis. That was most of what her character was. It was most of her just dying. Here, Lily is such a powerful character. And where they're heading with Lily and John, oh my god, this could change a lot of stuff. And I love this. So, she basically says that women make themselves slaves to men and throws John to the floor, and she honestly does have some points here, and basically Lily stares down at him and says she will never again kneel to any man because they will kneel to her as John does, and she says that Victor has brought forth demons, not angels, and asks John to consider why they exist, and when he tells her that it's to suffer, Lily says that he can have her, and she wants a man that is her equal, and basically when Victor returns, they plan to kill him together, and then it will be their home, and they and their children will rule mankind. So this is gone. That was awesome when we saw that, because basically Lily kisses John and says that no one will ever love him as she will, and karma's going to come by Victor in the ass. I honestly feel like they're going to kill him off. I really feel like that's going to happen. I mean, just the way that's going, it's really 2 against 1. I mean, in order for him to do that, he have to kill both of his creations, which is not something I think he wants to risk, really. I don't think that's something that John wants to do, because that'd be, like, one of the worst decisions that Victor could ever make, really. Killing John and Lily, that'd be horrible. So, I love where they're going with that. I love that they're going to turn against Victor, and that's fucking awesome. Really, it is. So, Evelyn takes Malcolm to her study and shows him her Memento Mori and says that she will use him, which is why the episode is called Memento Mori, and says that she will use him as bait to lure Vanessa there. And you can see that Evelyn's still trying to make it seem like she has feelings for Malcolm, which we, of course, know she doesn't. And what she says to Malcolm is some of the biggest bullshit I've ever heard. And basically, Lucifer wants her, and in return, he will give Evelyn and Malcolm eternal life so that they can be together. She tells him all this bullshit, which really, I think, was just a way for her to lure Malcolm so he will side with her. But Malcolm knows what she's doing is wrong, and he warns her that he has little warmth or humanity, but Evelyn insists that she doesn't want to live alone any longer. And disgusted, Malcolm says that he would take her head from her shoulders if he could and laugh. And I'm just like, he's such a badass. Seriously, that was fucking awesome. And he agrees to stay with her always if she lets Vanessa live. Really, that's what he's going to do. If she lets Vanessa live, and, the only thing to let Vanessa live is to be with her, then he's going to do that. And Evelyn warns that is the only thing that she can't do, and Malcolm promises to kill her because he has to keep Vanessa alive. I mean, she really is, like, the only family member he has left. I mean, and you really see how much that matters to him and how much he is a family first kind of man. And it's awesome to see him get back to how he should be. This is the Malcolm that I fucking love. Seriously, this is why I love Malcolm as a character. So, drawing back, Evelyn says that Vanessa was always Malcolm's favorite. She placed a scorpion on his leg, so that she will leave him with a few memories, and she's like, they'll sting as well. And she walks out, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna get awesome, because basically, I didn't really know this episode was gonna end. I really know what was gonna happen here, because once Evelyn leaves, Malcolm brushes the scorpion off his leg, goes to the door, the candles blow out, literally, and this coffin appears in the center of the room. And he opens it, and there's Peter's corpse, and we get this beautiful scene where he's just hugging it and crying. I mean, it's been years since he actually saw his son, and just to be reunited with that corpse, I thought was an amazing scene to see. However, this backfires because the coffins containing Mina and Gladys appear, and they start coming to life, and Peter opens his eyes, and the three of them advance on Malcolm, and then we cut to black, and that's how the episode ends. And holy shit, these last two episodes are going to be amazing, seriously. Everything about this episode was fantastic. I loved everything that happened in this episode. I couldn't have asked for a better episode. It's insane how much happened in this episode. I mean, we found out so much here. So much happened in this episode, and still, Vanessa and Ethan weren't even in it. I don't really care. And it's not that I don't love their characters. I love every character on the show. I've said that before. But I really didn't care that they weren't in because the episode was just so fucking good that I didn't care. And let's talk about what's going to happen with Malcolm. This definitely, I don't know what's going to happen with Malcolm. I don't know if he's going to be able to fight his inner demons. I really feel this is something where it's like his inner demons. You know, Mina and Gladys, that's something that he feels like he could have prevented. And that's definitely something that I feel like he needs to fight that off himself, which I think definitely it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I can't wait for the Evelyn Vanessa showdown. Seriously, I know that Vanessa is gonna find out what Evelyn's doing. That she's been this, she's been the one all along that's been doing all this, and I know they're gonna have a whole showdown, and I can't wait for that. That is gonna be awesome when that finally happens. And it looks like next week Vanessa and Ethan are coming back, and they're gonna reunite, and that's gonna be awesome to watch. And let's talk about Lilly and John, because that is awesome. I can't wait to see them rebel against Victor. That's something that I think is awesome. Just Lilly going from this really shy girl to, no, I'm actually a badass and I'm a lot smarter than you think I am, is awesome. I love that. And I love that John is actually finally getting something that he wants. And finally, he is accepted, and loved by someone, which is something that John's always wanted. And I love that John's finally getting it. That was awesome. Dorian and Angelique. I can't believe that Dorian poisoned Angelique. That is insane that he did that. And I definitely feel like Dorian is that's Dorian. That's what Dorian's always going to do. He can't fall in love because he doesn't really believe in love. He believes in bondage, and, he really is pansexual, which, again, as I said, he only really wanted Angelique for sex, really. I think he was just experimenting, and now he knows that he truly does love Lily. Lily, I feel he truly does love, and now it's going to be ruined because, of course, she's with John, and we'll have to see what happens there. Definitely feel like there's going to be a showdown with them, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's going on there. Sembene, as I said, I feel like Sembene is really hiding something. I'm not sure what it is, but definitely he is hiding something. I mean, just what he could do to Malcolm, and then the whole thing with Ethan last week, definitely there's something he's hiding. Rusk is definitely starting to get suspicious. I am definitely interested in seeing what's going to happen with Rusk. That, I think, is definitely going to be very interesting. Is he going to find out that Ethan is a werewolf? I'm not sure. They're definitely starting to put the pieces together. I'm surprised that Sembene hasn't told them yet, because you think that Sembene would. I think he just hasn't, because there's so much more going on that is like the least of his worries right now. I definitely feel like when Ethan gets back, yeah, he'll probably tell them. But for right now, I think that's just the least of his worries. I'm surprised he hasn't really told them, though. That honestly is very surprising. Hecate turning against Evelyn. Really surprising, but I definitely can see why it's happening. Definitely feel like Lyle's going to turn against her as well. Evelyn, I think, is going to be at the point where she has no one on her side. I mean, Malcolm has now turned against her. Hecate's cutting her loose, and Lyle, I'm pretty sure, is going to reveal his true colors, which, of course, Lyle wants nothing to do with her. He's only getting information out of her. That's really all he's doing, and again, he's really only doing this to cover up his identity, so that way she won't reveal who he really is, of course, because he's a man that's hiding his sexuality, and he doesn't want Evelyn, make him come out and everything. He doesn't want to go through that yet, which I definitely feel like that's something that he has to go through, which that's something that I thought this episode really did well. Every character really is going through something personal, but yet someone else is, You know, it really has nothing to do with just the person that's keeping them from doing something. They're all going through something personal. I mean, Malcolm is going through grief, you know, losing Mina and Gladys. He finally is going through that transformation of grief. John is going through just having someone to love and things like that. That's really what he's going through. Dorian's going through, you know, not really being able to love. Sembene, we don't really know what he. Ethan, of course, going through, you know, transformation. Vanessa's also going through not really knowing who she is. And then, of course, you have, you know, you have, uh, now I can think of their name. Now you have Lyle, who's a man covering up his sexuality and who he really is, and he doesn't really know who he is. And I think they did a very good job in this episode. But overall, guys, this episode was explosive. I absolutely loved it. It was the best episode of all time, Penny Dreadful. Honestly, the best episode I think this show has ever done. I don't know how they're going to top it. I don't know how the finale is going to top it. I think they'll be able to top it, but I'm not really sure. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I absolutely loved this episode. I cannot wait for next week's episode. It's going to be amazing. That's the reason my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for the pilot of The Brink. I will not be reviewing Ballers. I watched like 9 minutes of it. It fucking sucked. I hate it. And I will be watching The Brink, though, and I will bring you the pilot of that, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.